begin the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District, and the time is 7:00 p.m. Can we get the members present?
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Aaron Rashba,
Here.
Anthony Sujisaka,
Here.
Andrea Jordan,
Here.
Shaquille Ali.
Here. And I would like to ask Mr. Valenti to please lead us in the pledge.
Put your right hand over your heart. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
If I could, I would like to request that one agenda item is moved. So if we could move 7H to just before 7G, we just want to switch the order. So the dashboard would be right before the single plan for student achievement.
Okay, do we have a motion with that amendment?
I'll move to approve the agenda with that amendment.
I second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Board member acknowledgements and commendations. Item 5A. And we'll start on the right.
Good to be back. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you had a wonderful holiday. I ate too much, but I got to sleep, did a lot of cooking. I forgot I knew how to cook still. So yeah, after 6 kids, you welcome the opportunity to not cook anymore. So I did a lot of cooking. But just excited for a new year. Reading a lot of good things of the happenings that are going on thus far. And I just want to say thank you to our superintendent. I really appreciate the consistency of the updates that we get from you. I will tell you, it's been for me very refreshing, and I appreciate it very much to you and your team. And so welcome back, and I wish you all a great year.
Well, I echo my colleagues' excitement in the new year and wanting to wish everybody in the district very happy new year. Hope your 2024 is off to a great start. I love the new year for the new opportunities that it brings, and I'm excited about this year for our school district. Thank you.
Yes, welcome back, everybody. I know upcoming this week is going to be our school TRP dance show. Or is it TRP? Yeah,
Yeah, it was last week and this week.
last week and this week. Yeah, I'll be attending tomorrow night. And then to echo what Manufa said, Happy New Year, and also Happy Lunar New Year, since we won't have a board meeting at that time.
Echo fellow board trustee sentiments, and looking forward to this meeting.
Thank you. As everyone said, welcome back, everyone. And I'm looking forward to us handling the business of our district and to the best of our ability. Superintendent comments.
Yes, Happy New Year to everyone as well. We have a very packed agenda tonight, including a packed closed session. So I just want to remind you of that as we go through tonight's meeting. I want to also point out we're going to be closing the session tonight in honor of our former board member, Marie Bruzuela's husband, Robert Bruzuela. So we'll be closing in honor of him and sending him and sending the family our condolences. We have just a couple notes. You may notice a little treat in front of you. January is School Board Recognition Month, so we wanted to give you a little treat in our to recognize the work you do and to thank you for all the work you do. We know it's sometimes a thankless job, and we appreciate everything you do and the commitment you have for our district. So we appreciate you. And then also, speaking of kindness and your generosity, it is the Great Kindness Challenge next week. And so this comes from the State Department of Education, that they're throwing out the Great Kindness Challenge and doing kind things. So all of our school sites are going to be doing some sort of activities with the Kindness Challenge. And I promoted it in the newsletter that just went out today to our families and to the community on Friday. Also, you mentioned the TRP dance. I saw that last week during school, and then also the band concert last week. The TRP band concert performed. Next week, I will be in Indian Wells for the superintendent's conference. So I will be learning some new things about it's the superintendent's symposium as well as a new superintendent seminar series. So I'll be bringing all that learning back and hopefully making some improvements as well. And then also today at TRP, Thomas R. Policita, we also had our second harvest meal distribution. And so we'll be doing that. It's the third Wednesday of every month, and we're hoping to expand to other school sites. So just letting folks know about that. And we also hope that everyone enjoyed their 3-day weekend in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. So yeah, we just want to wish everyone a great 2024 and hope that we have a smooth meeting tonight because we have a lot to cover. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McCulloch. And now the time is item 5C, time for persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. No, we do not have anyone who wishes to speak to us. Item 6A, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item 6C, Board Professional Development Budget. The board will discuss increasing the professional development budget for the Jefferson Elementary School District Board members. 2023-24 conference budget is approximately $11,000.
Yes, this was requested by some board members because we are getting near the end of our balance. We have about a little over 1,500 left. And so there was a conversation between, a board member and I about increasing this budget for future professional development. You'll see the next agenda item is one of them. So the one thought was to double it to get to 20,000 because that would cover a little bit more. And then if it's not spent, it will just carry over into the next year. So we thought it might, we do need to have an approved budget, but we can adjust it this year. It's up to you if you would like to increase the budget.
And then I know that, do we also say we wanted to increase it even more than this amount? Or is it just this amount would make it the 20,000 you said?
We would increase it to 20,000. That's what I'm recommending, but whatever the board decides.
So you said there's 1,500 in the account now.
Remaining.
So then that still wouldn't make 20,000, 11,000.
No, we have already budgeted 11,000 and we've already spent 10,000, 9,500. So we only have 1,500 remaining. So if the board would like to do future professional development for this year, we have to increase the budget. And you'll see the next item for one person to attend is 3,000. So that's already over budget.
And a really quick question, President Ali. So when is the budget re-upped for, I guess, because I'm just thinking through this year, we have a conference coming up, but that won't be until the next year.
That'll be in the
So-
next fiscal year's budget. But if we increase it now, then we'll increase it for the future as well. We'll just keep that as the new
The baseline,
budget.
okay.
Are there any other questions or comments? No? Okay, so do we agree with the superintendent's recommendation of upping it to 20,000, or does someone want to propose a different amount?
Well, I guess I have another question, trustee. So the 9,500 or how much ever we spent already, was that only for the school board conference that we did in December, or was it for other items that we spent that on? And if so, what were they?
Yes, so it was for the CSBA conference that was held in San Francisco. So we did save some. So next year it will be in San Diego. So there will be additional expenses for next year. But then we also had several board members attending the Masters in Governance. And then I believe that's it with the board professional development that's been spent. I think it's mainly Masters in Governance and the CSBA for this year so far.
Okay, and the reason why I asked that question, follow-up, is right, we may have board members also attending Masters in Governance between now, before we approve the next budget, and then the advocacy trip. So just want to make sure that whatever we budget for makes sense, and then thinking through San Diego, flights, transportation, food, hotel. If we're saying we want to budget and keep whatever we say here for next year, then we may want to calculate accordingly what that might look like.
Just for comment, at the March meeting, you guys will be approving the second interim budget. So any changes that we make from now until then, you will be approving the change. What we do to build the conference budget for the board is we look at historically what have we spent in the last few years, and just so that we're kind of threading the needle and not budgeting an absurd amount and not materializing. As to be transparent, we could have this discussion and we could put it at this $21,000 recommended amount. We could take a look at it, and then from now until the end of the year, there could be another conference of which we will make an adjustment, and you guys will be approving another budget for estimated actuals, which would be encompassing that change. Just as a reminder, our budgets, as well as every other budget in the state of California as they pertain to public school districts, are living and breathing documents. And so they, if the need presents itself and the board and Superintendent McCulloch feel it is to our benefit, we will make those adjustments so that they fall in alignment with our expenditures. So they could be adjusted again. And there's going to be ample opportunities for you guys to approve those adjustments.
Okay, that's reassuring. Are you thinking of a higher amount?
I just want to make sure that if we say we're doing it based on past year, we've had past years where essentially one person doesn't go. And I think it was the same this year, but that may not always be the case. And so I understand using past year, but I don't agree that past year is the only indicator. And so you did mention we can always revisit. So my additional question is, even if we say this is what we want, do we even have the cushion in the budget to do so based on all of the other things that we're trying to accomplish this year?
In short, yes, because we're still going to be things are not going to materialize, through the end of the year. We budget to spend all of the money that we receive, all the revenues that we receive in the current year, right? Sometimes in the course of the year, as in life, things aren't always clear cut. And so sometimes things don't materialize 100%, right? And so all we can do is utilize what we know from the past and, anticipate what's to come in the future to try to, like I said, thread the needle on where we'll be. What I think we shouldn't do is set an extraordinarily high number that we're not going to hit. I think we should just be a little bit more calculated. I think the figure that Superintendent McCulloch has been a thought process or thoroughly thought out. And, if the time comes where we need to make another revision, like I said, there's ample opportunities at second interim as well as estimated actuals to make those changes. So we have time. I wouldn't put too much stress on if we won't have enough budget, because we'll have time to, make those determinations in the future.
And just a clarifying question, wondering what happens with this item if we go under or over, if we end up spending under, just to clarify what happens to the unspent funds. And then if, say, we budget 20,000 but actually spend 23, how does that work?
I can answer. Yeah, so through the year, we're making adjustments based on a site basis. So Superintendent McCulloch's office or department has a budget. The technology department has a budget. School sites have discretionary budgets. So we're looking at the staffing, the materials and supplies, contracted services. We're utilizing historical data that we know, like maybe there's certain conferences that you guys go to and it's at a set dollar amount. And historically, 2 board members have gone, and we know approximately, what that costs. Utilizing the information you guys put forth, adding additional members to go and those different costs, we utilize that and we put that into our budget moving forward. Now, before the end of the year, what we do is we true up the budgets to make sure it's when we develop the budget for the preceding year. And we go through quote unquote estimated actuals. So we try to figure out where we're going to be, our financial standing at the end of the year. Of course, when we come into September, we have unaudited actuals, which is where we actually ended the year up. And so all of those dollars that are in the general fund unrestricted, they fall to our unrestricted fund balance. Through a process like this and through the budget development process, we develop and make sure that moving forward, if we did spend $25,000 and it was $20,000, that we budget for $25,000 in the following year. We don't individually keep, a line for line. If you could imagine, there are tens of thousands of budget code lines that we look at in our budget. And so we don't look at every single line and say, this is going to roll over to next year, because we start the new year on a clean slate, utilizing the data that we have for staffing and what have you, in a nutshell.
I think to answer your question, that if we go over, we do a budget transfer from another resource or another fund.
Within
so
that
like
site.
it could be instructional materials and supplies. We, that's kind of usually where everything lands. And so if we haven't spent it all, we can just transfer 5,000 from there into that budget account, as long as it's in the same fund.
Yeah, or the same department. We like to keep them siloed so we know that each department's getting a set amount, and then maybe there's savings that we're realizing in another, like I said, materials and supplies. So we just make that adjustment. So in terms of bottom line, it doesn't affect our bottom line because we've already budgeted for all of those dollars.
I have a comment. I appreciate hearing the allocation or reallocation. I think just kind of piggybacking on Trustee Jordan, I think it's important to look at forecasting some of the things that we know are already factored in annually to our PD, which we know has been the AEC, right? That's CSBA's annual education conference. So technically, while not everyone goes, I still think that budget should reflect every member on the board. So if it's not used, and then it can be allocated. Like I didn't go. There's 5 of us. In my mind, that's how I would look at the budget. And so when we're saying 20,000, and I'm looking at item D, 6D, I would think that should be factored in. I hear Masters of Governance. If we're looking at the budget for board development, I just think that anything that we know will encompass a level of learning, PD, especially when we're onboarding new members, which will happen this year. I think I would like to recommend that that's the budget we should be looking at moving forward. It's kind of, I feel like we're blindly throwing numbers out right now. And I, not that I'm not comfortable, but I think it's important for us to really gauge what we're looking at. And it's not that hard because we don't do a lot of things. And I do not recall, since I've been on the board, I may have missed it, but I don't recall us looking at increasing our budget for PD ever since I've been here. So one, I think that's great. But I do think that I would like to ask if we could look at this from that lens, look at everything that we plan on attending, and then make a recommendation around that, because we pretty much know what those registration fees are, or at least, we can a ballpark figure. So that's my recommendation, instead of us guessing an amount and then coming back and making another, agenda item just to increase a budget or make an amendment based on another event or training that one of us might want to attend.
So we could adjust the budget now to cover the cost of anyone going to the next item. And then as Mr. Lau said, we have the March meeting where we're going to be looking at the next year. So we could just, for now, move it to 20,000 or whatever amount you feel is appropriate to cover the rest of this year. And then we'll make that adjustment in March for the future. So, or we can table this till next meeting and make the decision once we can do some calculations of estimations of what we might think people would attend.
I just want to ask, so are you saying that we should start with 20,000 as the base and then add whatever we're gonna for this next item on top of the 20,000? I thought that's what you were saying. Okay, yeah. So 20,000. So we might have to table that until after we do item D and then come back to it.
Okay, I think,
So we can
yeah.
determine
Yeah.
how many people. Okay. So
Do we have to table it till after this meeting, or can we move it afterwards?
no, just after item C. We're gonna do item.
Discuss item
D
C, so
and then
it's
go back to
adjusting the agenda.
Yes. So I move that we table this until after item D, and then we return to it. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
I
Okay, great. Item D. The board will discuss sending board members to attend the CSBA Coast to Coast Federal Advocacy Trip, April 8th to 10th, 2024. Do we have anyone who's interested?
Shared this with the superintendent, which is why I don't know if anyone else did, but I had met with our sister board, Jefferson Union High School members, and the reason why I brought this up is because I regularly do our legislative days in Sacramento for my day job. So I had a taste of that. And so just getting the feedback from Jefferson Union High School members had piqued my interest in this trip. And I think we missed it last year. It would have been nice to go with folks from here, because asking them now who's going, not all of them were considering making this trip. However, I brought it up to our superintendent because I was very interested in this trip last year. And that's why I believe it's on the agenda tonight. So I actually didn't step back from December because of this, but I just didn't warrant a reason for me to attend last December here at Moscone. But this, for me, is something I'm interested in as a board member.
Okay. I also expressed my interest before this meeting. So if there's anyone else, so far that's two of us.
So I am interested, but I can't commit to these dates without looking at my day job's calendar and my family calendar. And so I think unless maybe we budget for 3 and then I confirm at a later date if I'm absolutely able to attend.
Can you make it a weekend instead? Just kidding.
All right. Any other comments or questions about item D?
I then want to say that maybe we then should table both C and D until the next meeting. Reason being, since you might be interested, I don't know if that's going to impact the amount, but if that impacts a decision on us determining the $20,000 that we are considering to earmark as.
I think you'll want to register, though. So I think you could make a motion to approve 3 members going,
Okay.
pending their schedules, and then that can determine the tabled item.
That was going to be my question. When is the registration for this? And because I'm also thinking if you register early, you probably get a discount or something.
Yeah, this is not the discounted price, but I believe the registration is open now.
Got it. Okay.
So do we have a motion?
Are we motioning to table?
I will withdraw based on the recommendation from the superintendent that we look at, make the motion to consider 3 board members unless there's more than 3 members interested. And if not, the motion is 3.
I second that.
Okay, I kind of lost track. So did you second?
The 3?
Okay, so you're taking your motion back to table?
No, I'm asking
Okay. All right, so the motion is to approve 3 board members pending our calendar availability. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I believe that's unanimous. So we'll go back to item C now. And so it sounds like to me is we're up to about 29,000, correct?
Well, we currently, we have 1,500 remaining. We don't have any other anticipated professional development unless someone has something, master's in governance they plan to attend. So the 9,000 would actually bring us up to 20,000 unless you wanted to add more, maybe 25,000 just to have a buffer, or 30,000 and then.
Trustee Ali, can I ask a question? So I know you said we don't anticipate anyone doing the Masters in Governance. I just want to speak up about my experience with Masters in Governance. It was very sporadic. I would look at the calendar and say, oh, no, the dates didn't work. And then maybe a couple months later, I would look at it and say, oh, the dates did work. Then I would reach out and say, let's schedule it. So I'm a little concerned with us saying we may not have someone go to Masters in Governance when, you know, I don't know if either of our newer trustees have graduated from that yet. And if you haven't, then that means there's probably still courses that you're probably going to be interested in taking. So unless both, and I guess this question is to both Trustee Rashba and Trustee Sujisaka, are you not going to look at the calendar for the rest of the year?
So I've already registered for all 5 courses at once. I looked at my calendar. So I think I should be all registered for all 5. So mine should be done. I just haven't graduated yet.
Got it. Trustee Rashba.
I have not found the time to partake in any of the classes.
So I would just say to, you know, if he does find the time, he may not now, but the
So we can do
future.
30,000
Yeah.
just to be safe. And then if we don't spend it, it rolls over into the next year. So if someone wants to make a motion for 30,000.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. That's great. I just want to also add that there are some ethnic based or culturally based conferences that come up for us as well. And I know I was interested in one in the past. I'm not sure if there was one that you were, but I know that I didn't at the time know that we could increase the budget for that. I guess I didn't think about it, but I wish that we would have at that time. So I think it's better to allocate more, you know, instead of less. So I'm happy with the outcome.
If I may just chime in on that, the more informed the board is, the better you perform at your job. So I support professional development for the board.
Okay. Item 6E, tentative agreement between Jefferson Elementary School District and AFT number 3267 for 2023-2024. The administration recommends approval of the tentative agreement between the AFT Local 3267 and Jefferson Elementary School District pending AB 1200 approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education. The agreement effective July 1st, 2023 includes a 3% wage increase on the salary schedule to the unit and other agreements on stipends for after-school and weekend work, hours of employment, and health and welfare, as specified in the attached tentative agreement. These agreements represent the conclusion of 2023-2024 negotiations between AFT Local number 3267 and Jefferson Elementary School District.
And I believe we just received approval of AB 1200, so we are good there.
Do we have a motion?
I motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Item 6F, compensation for unrepresented, certificated, classified, and management employees for 2023-2024. The administration recommends approval pending AB 1200, approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education of a 3% salary increase to the salary schedules commensurate with other employee groups and an equivalent adjustment made to district health and welfare benefit contributions to unrepresented, certificated, and classified employees, psychologists, management, which includes principals, vice principals, deans, program coordinators, program directors, and assistant superintendents, effective July 1st, 2023. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make the motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Item 6G, compensation for unrepresented confidential classified employees for 2023-24. The administration recommends approval pending AB 1200, approval by the San Mateo County Office of Education of a 3% salary increase to the salary schedules commensurate with other employee groups, a one-time payment of $700 in alignment with the approved CSEA tentative agreement, and an equivalent adjustment made to district health and welfare benefit contributions to unrepresented confidential classified employees, effective July 1st, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved, and congratulations. Item 6H, Resolution Number 24-01-17, National School Counseling Week. The administration recommends adoption of Resolution Number 24-01-17, designated the week of February 5th through 9th, 2024 as National School Counseling Week. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and can we please have a roll call?
Ms. Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mr. Rashba,
Aye.
Mr. Sujisaka,
Aye.
Ms. Jordan,
Aye.
Mr. Ali.
Aye. Unanimously approved. Item 7E, Contracted Services KCE Champions LLC. The administration recommends acceptance of a contract in the amount of $34,795.55 with KCE Champions LLC. KCE Champions LLC will provide comprehensive expanded learning programming at Ben Franklin Intermediate School from August 6, 2023 to June 7, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. 55 cents. Item F, Contracted Services, Zoom Services, Inc. The administration recommends acceptance of a contract in the amount of $15,000 with Zoom Services, Inc. to provide transportation services for the Jefferson Elementary School District students. The cost is for the full academic year 2023 to 24. The contract is to be funded through the Student Services Department, Title I. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 7H, presentation on California School Dashboard and Local Indicators for 2023-24 school year. Ms. Pam Scott, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, will present on the California School Dashboard.
Good evening. I am here to present the JESD data from our California School Dashboard. So the California School Dashboard is one part of California's comprehensive accountability system for schools, districts, and county offices of education that reports performance and progress in 13 different areas, 6 state indicators and 7 local indicators. Each area reflects the priorities of California's local control funding formula and the metrics required by the federal Every Student Succeeds Act. So let's view a quick video for an overview. Hopefully this works.
Welcome to the California School Dashboard. Around the dashboard in 90 seconds.
The dashboard is designed to help us understand how well our schools are doing and where improvement is needed. The best place to begin is by looking up your child's school. Right away, we see a variety of useful information called measures. Together, these give us a more complete picture of what's happening at the school. Once each year, all the information on the dashboard is updated. The state then assigns a color rating for each measure. These ratings are based on 2 main things: how well the school did at a certain point in time, and whether performance went up or down. If we look at one of the academic indicators, we see that overall, students fell 62.9 points below the standards for math, although they increased 14.3 points from last year. We can also see how students performed compared to the state average. And we can view a breakdown to see how well our schools served particular groups of students. Besides schools, we can view similar data about the district as a whole. The district section includes additional information about parent involvement and school climate and conditions. The dashboard puts clear information into our hands as parents, so we can talk with teachers and school leaders and help drive our schools to success. Are you ready to take it for a spin?
You can find more information about the California School Dashboard at www.casschooldashboard.org. This video was produced for the California Department of Education by Californians dedicated to Education Foundation.
So when we view the data on the California dashboard, we are viewing large-scale summative data. This data is best used to generate questions to drive inquiry, to better understand who is being well served by schools and who is not having their needs met. Such as, I wonder what might be causing our math proficiency rate to be lower than ELA, or what might be different about the way the 2 student groups with very low attendance experience school. District schools and student groups receive performance colors. Oops, sorry. One slide back. Included in the 2023 dashboard are both state and local indicators. Tonight, I am sharing data from the following state indicators: academics in both ELA and math, English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, and suspension rate. So district schools and student groups receive performance colors on the dashboard: blue, green, yellow, orange, and red, where blue indicates the highest performance and red indicates the lowest performance. Performance colors are determined based on a combination of status, which is the current year performance, and change, which is the current year performance compared with prior year performance. So in academic performance, this contains 2 measures: English language arts and mathematics. These measures show how well students are meeting grade level standards. The 2023 dashboard shows that JESD is in the orange status levels in both ELA and math. 47% of our students are on grade level for English language arts, and 35% of our students are on grade level for mathematics. This year, to improve, we are focused on the following key areas: developing stronger district-wide collaborative teacher teams to enhance their ability to share best practices across schools, administering standards-aligned assessments to ensure students receive targeted and timely interventions, utilizing the Universal Design for Learning guidelines to ensure our classroom lessons remove barriers for accessing grade-level standards for all students, and beginning to implement co-teaching structures through the hiring of 7 new MTSS specialists. The chronic absenteeism measure shows how many students were absent for 10% or more of the instructional days they were enrolled to attend. For example, if a student was enrolled to attend 180 instructional days and was absent 18 or more of those days, the student would be considered chronically absent. The 2023 dashboard shows that JESD is in the red status level for chronic absenteeism. 22.4% of our students were chronically absent last year and missed at least 10% of their school year. We know that when students do not attend school, they do not learn. To improve this metric, staff continue to prioritize building positive relationships with students and their families. Staff routinely follow up with families about attendance through multiple means: emails, phone calls, in-person meetings, and home visits. Our program director of student services and her team connect daily with our most at-risk families and provide them with needed support and resources. This includes, but is not limited to, access to transportation, food, clothing, and family counseling. Administrators schedule weekly student study team meetings to build collaboration between staff and families to improve the learning experiences for their students. And staff collectively encourage and celebrate family involvement and engagement through both school site functions and district committees. The English Learner Progress Measure looks at the progress that English learner students are making toward achieving English proficiency. Each spring, English learner students take the English Learner Proficiency Assessments, or LPAC, which measures how well they know and understand English. Results from the LPAC are used to calculate the English Learner Progress Measure. The 2023 dashboard shows that JESD displayed yellow status level for the English Learner Progress Indicator. 52.4% of our English learner students made progress toward English language proficiency last year. This year, we are building upon our successes from last year by focusing on the following initiatives. Our program director of teaching and learning continues to provide professional development to support the implementation of systematic ELD curriculum materials. Our program director of assessment, accountability, and multilingual students has continued to implement Elevation, an online platform management and teaching program that empowers teachers and administrators with tools to enhance instruction. And the 11 additional ELD teachers who were hired last year continue to meet monthly to collaborate on how best to provide our students with designated English language development. The suspension rate measure shows the percentage of students who were suspended for at least one full day during the school year. A student is counted as suspended in the suspension rate only once, regardless of multiple suspensions or multiple days of suspension. The 2023 dashboard shows that JESD is in the orange status level for the suspension rate. 2.4% of our students were suspended last year. We are committed to keeping our students in classrooms where they can focus on learning. Our current programs, PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, SEL, which stands for Social and Emotional Learning, and restorative practices are in place on each campus and were designed to ensure students clearly understand the behavior expectations, how to manage their emotions and relationships, and how to repair harm after conflict has occurred. In addition to these anchor programs, we have begun hosting listening sessions, what we call student fishbowls, at each of our middle schools to hear directly from students what they need from us, the adults, to enhance their learning experiences. We have hosted one meeting at each middle school to date, and we'll be scheduling additional visits in the coming weeks. So some districts and schools will be identified for targeted support, which is also known as differentiated assistance, due to low performance across multiple measures. This technical support is provided by the San Mateo County Office of Education. It involves dedicating resources to the district and schools to work together to improve systems and conditions. To be eligible for targeted support, the same student group must meet the criteria, meaning very low or the red color, in two different priority areas. So red in either academic performance and academic engagement, or academic engagement, climate and conditions, any two of those categories. So this chart provides you with the status levels for each of our student groups. in the 4 measures. As a reminder, red equals very low, orange equals low, yellow is medium, green is high, and blue is very high. JESD has been identified for differentiated assistance due to the same student groups not meeting the criteria in 2 different priority areas. Both our African American students and white students have qualified under chronic absenteeism and suspension rate, and both our homeless students and students with disabilities have qualified under academics and chronic absenteeism. So we will be meeting with San Mateo County Office of Education within the next few weeks to learn more about the supports they have available for us as we work to find the root causes and embark on improving the school experience for all students. We look forward to engaging with all educational partners in a continuous improvement cycle, as we know that progress forward takes collective action. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from our board members? And we'll start on the left this time.
I'm processing. I read this in advance. I had a question about chronic absenteeism. Does this include when, and I can't remember the word specifically, but let's say we have a student that's going to be out for, I'm just making this up here, but let's say 2 weeks, a month, for a variety of reasons. They have to travel back to their home country, and we are giving them the curriculum for that month to continue. Is that included in this? I'm assuming not.
No, if they're on an independent study, no.
There we go. Perfect. And then the targeted groups for chronic absenteeism and suspension, it's been the same since I've been on the board. And I know I got on the board during the pandemic, but it doesn't seem like it's a shift. And I do remember a while back, I had asked, what about, is there professional development? And I'm just speaking as a woman of color that has been in a school, that is children that have been in schools, that have been, and I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to say the truth, targeted by teachers based on what they may have thought that was happening because of a child of a certain race or background would act a certain way. And so how are we using professional development maybe to help with a perception, because it doesn't make sense that we have had the same groups dealing with the same issues, and I'm sure even prior to me being on the board, same groups. And I just, at this point, I'm like, what can we do beyond just talking to the children? How can we use professional development and unconscious and conscious bias to help shift gears in the way that we interact with these groups that are, quote unquote, having the same issues year over year?
I believe it really anchors to what we're doing with Universal Design for Learning. The big piece of that is looking at what barriers are coming into the classroom and then designing lessons to address those barriers. And then also looking at data, right? Data, I think, is non-biased and provides teachers with the information they need to make informed decisions about next steps. So we're working hard to enhance the data that we have access to make better decisions around how students are performing based on what is being taught in the classroom. I think there's a gap there that we're working quickly to close. Because I think data provides, again, us an opportunity to look at our whole group of kids and regroup based on the learning outcomes rather than perceptions.
Thank you.
You ready for my list?
Probably not. Just kidding.
Actually, you did a very good job because I don't actually have any this time.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, you've anticipated what I was going to ask, and actually, that was going to be my question. So thank you for asking, Trustee Jordan.
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Scott. My only question is just about differentiated assistance. So I understand that our district has received that before, and I would like to know just what that entailed, what you felt overall that, the learnings or takeaways from, past differentiated assistance was, and what could be expected this time around.
I actually had more experience with the process in my former district in Burlingame. It really is a support to districts if they should choose to receive it, and it's working with the county as thought partners. They are willing to come in and help lead a continuous improvement cycle if we need them to work. We're actually meeting with them tomorrow morning to just start the process of identifying, what are things that are working, what are some root causes, what are some systems we want to explore and put into place. So they just really are working in partnership with us to, perhaps connect us with other districts or other people in our area who are having different results that we can learn from. So networking, partnership.
If I may jump in for a moment, just a reminder, this data is from last year. So we're already 6 months into this year. So this is old data. And so especially with chronic absenteeism, we're already seeing a decline in the percent, which is good. And so the actions that we took last year with differentiated assistance, looking at chronic absenteeism, we put into place and we're seeing some results this year. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at that. So looking at differentiated assistance has supported us and they're going to continue with this year.
Yeah, sorry. I'm processing this to see a lot of the red and the orange. I know that we've seen some of this in the past, but first of all, I want to say thank you for your presentation. I always appreciate your presentations. I just, to be transparent, it is, while it is 6 months old data, and I definitely appreciate hearing that there's progress being made. I think just trying to think what kind of questions to ask tonight that are not emotional, but are geared to supporting the efforts that are in place by you all. I will say my curiosity is around what approaches do you find outside? I see the fishbowl, and the reason why I'm having a hard time processing it is I'm not a formal educator, but just my summers are spent with kids, many of the kids that are identified in this red and orange group where for whatever reason, something goes off in them, and they make the change in addition to the energy that they embrace from the educators and supporting adults around them. And I say that to say, what approaches have you and your team found to be, when we are looking at all of the progress, how would you identify the most positive level of improvement in the approaches that you have in place now?
I believe the hiring of our additional ELD teachers, out of the metrics I've shared tonight, our ELD students maintained progress where the other metrics indicated a decline. So I feel that the work that we are doing, not only with the additional ELD teachers, but the programs that our district has brought in to support them is showing some progress. So I want to commend our ELD staff. They meet every month to collaborate around best practices. And I want to go back to, John Hattie's collective efficacy as being a #1 indicator of success. So when our teachers come together and collaborate at high levels, it has an impact. And so this team has done that. Again, I think attendance, right? We're coming out of COVID and families are receiving the message to come back to school, even, of course, not when they're very sick, but the restrictions have lessened. So I think that's a huge improvement. Yeah.
I recall, and I think every year during CSBA, there's some sort of workshop that speaks to family engagement. I don't know if there was one this time, but I attend that every time I see it offered. And the reason being, I have all these districts that get up and celebrate and they boast about their level of family engagement, which we all know folds into the success of our students. When we speak to family engagement, is there outside of like site councils and other activities, are there other workshops or what type of engagement is happening with regards to family involvement, especially around like I see the chronic absenteeism, the suspension rates, and Mr. Laurel might be the one that could help me do numbers. I was trying to do percentages again, but if I'm right, based on what I'm seeing here on suspension rates, that's 105 kids, if I'm right, reading the percentage. I hope I'm not, but if I am right, I'm like, that's quite a lot of kids, and I don't know why they're suspended. I get called into a school at least 3 times a week because a Black or brown student gets called in for a variety of reasons. And what I have found is that a lot of times it's just a misunderstanding, and being able to iron that out through conflict mediation. I'm, again, not trying to dictate or being imposing my practice, but I bring this up to say that I am having a difficult time seeing the orange and the red. I really am. And I want to be, I believe we all want to be a form of support. And I'm sitting here wondering, how do I do that? How do I support you all to do a better job outside of voting on things? I feel like I'm going to make this an I statement that I'm not doing enough. I leave that on the table. It's a question that we can't answer now, but if I'm seeing 105 kids being suspended in this school year, I'm lost. I'm trying to ask, how do we fix that? And why is that happening? And how do we support our teachers? I mean, I feel like I'm not doing my job sitting here and saying yes and no and adding a budget to me going to a conference. I almost feel like saying, let me take that money back and throw it somewhere else. And I'm getting emotional because I don't know the answer to that. But I feel like I need direction tonight to see how I can support you better and how we can have a discussion how to support you all better. Because this is just, to me, for the lack of better words, just a huge injustice to see red and orange. And an injustice to all of you that are making collective, concerted efforts to create those shifts. So I'm adding comments to things where solutions should be asked, but I think my question is, I would love to learn what approaches you, like I asked again, I would love, being a visual person, seeing what kind of positive progress you've made with different approaches, and how we're able to learn about other ways we can improve this, because I have seen districts, we've heard Dr. Jeff Andrade talk about how he's brought in different approaches. I don't know if that applies here. And I'm not clear on what other things we can be doing or that we've explored. So that's kind of what I'm asking today, if that's even a question, to help us help you move the needle. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
I think I'm just
You brought up many
emotionally-
topics. And I want to say that we share in your feelings when we look at this chart. As you know, the one person standing up here speaking on behalf of our entire district, it's uncomfortable, I will say. And it also, we leave feeling depleted because I know every single person is working really hard. And I think that's the challenge is how do we look at the work that we need to do differently? How, and Sandy and I talk a lot about the system is designed to get the results that we're getting. So how do we become brave and courageous to look at our system and perhaps look at redesigning within, what's within our control? Because I agree with you, these results are ongoing and have been the same, and we're not seeing the big changes. On top of that, I'll say it's the same in every district, right? Every district is seeing these same types of results and not seeing huge changes. We can learn from outlier districts who have seen positive results, and we do connect with them as much as possible to learn. Every district is different, though. The family engagement piece, Dina Conti and I are visiting every school site right now and either in person or virtual to connect with either their PTA or their school site council to get input on our next LCAP plan. And one of the questions is around family engagement and asking them what are the barriers that are preventing families from coming into our schools or participating more, and what might we do to remove those barriers. And they've given us some really great ideas. One from last night, right? That was just, it was really great feedback for us. Now it's gone. I'm trying to remember it. So that was the engagement piece, the restorative practices and suspensions. We all agree. And I want to say when I came into this district, I was so impressed with the work that has been done at all the school sites around positive behavioral support, SEL, restorative practices. There's such a strong foundation built here prior to the pandemic, but we know the pandemic crumbled everything. So we're rebuilding. We have a restorative practices committee in place right now. We're meeting 4 times a year to kind of regenerate that work and take it back to sites to remind all of us the importance of building those positive relationships for helping all students and adults work positively through conflict, right? So giving students those skills and the SEL skills that they learn around self-awareness, self-management, relationship building, all go into play when they have to repair the harm, because we all create harm, right? Even as adults, there's harm, but we need to learn how to repair that. And so that work is restarting at sites again. And we've seen that when we pay attention to the relationships, when we give students choice and voice, they feel more connected to school and will choose different behaviors that won't get them suspended. So that's the work that we're kind of doing in that arena. I think I kind of tried to wrap it
No,
here.
thank you, Ms. Scott. I have so much admiration and respect for you and all of the educators and the team in this district. I think I've said it before, I'm very proud of our district, but I sit here in a place of being uncomfortable with you because I feel like our hands are tied in how we can support you better. And I say that with a lot of compassion, and I share your frustration. So I apologize for rambling, but it has been a lot to take in to see this tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So actually, the other comments actually brought up one question. I was wondering, so in talking about our suspensions, what specific alternatives to suspensions are we enacting?
Well, we did kind of all the common ones, right? You've got kind of an in-school suspension, a lot of repairing the harm. We have what's called a voluntary consent to discipline hearing. So we bring families and the students into a panel of administrators and district staff, and we do a restorative type process in that meeting. And it's very powerful when the adults in the room show the student that we're there for support. And the end result might be a restorative conference with the people involved in the incident. It might be moving to a different school. And continuing to find ways at each site. I know the different sites perhaps look at different projects that the students can do to learn, right? The skills that they need to learn, creating different mentorships. One thing that we're hoping to possibly look at for next year is the peer council, which you probably are used to at BIS, bringing that system into play because based on my experience as a middle school principal, it's very powerful when students and families are offered that alternative to suspension and they have to go in front of their peers and share what happened and make that repair, and they get the support from their peer group as well to move forward. So again, we're just rebuilding those pieces like everyone, like all districts are.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's one of the, to echo what Trustee Munifo said, it's very difficult to sit up here, especially you may not be a formal educator, but you see a lot of very accurate things. Like as formal educators, we're sitting here frustrated too. Just we are so proud of our district and we're educators and we're just like, well, we would love to go in there and see what's going on, but that's also, something that we got to trust our people to do. And we're hoping next year will be better. But yeah, no, thank you for that. And then looking into PDs may also be valuable. I know like peer council was one of them that we got from a PD last year. We also heard of one called Structured Day, which is another one. There are lots of them, but I'm wondering if you could send principals to those or assistant principals or deans to those kind of council or professional developments to learn those too. Thank you.
So I'm glad you asked the question about alternatives to suspension because that was one of my questions. So now I only have two. So my first question is the hiring of the 7 MTSS specialists, multi-tier system of services. What are the qualifications needed for that position and what classes will they co-teach and where?
They are credentialed teachers. I think most of them are multiple subject credentialed teachers. Most of them, I think, if not all, were former classroom teachers in our district. And the goal is to use that new system to support math. So we identified fifth grade as a target grade level. Our fifth graders have historically performed lower in math at that grade level. So the MTSS teachers have partnered with, starting with the fifth grade elementary teacher at their site, and are co-teaching. So it's not a special education co-teaching environment. It's just two teachers in the same space. All of the MTSS specialists went through training at the beginning of the year on Bridges, our adopted elementary math curriculum, and learned about the intervention piece of that program, and are implementing that when they're working in the classrooms. They have also, based on success of that early co-teaching in the fifth grade, they are now expanding to other grade levels, but our primary focus has been on math. If those teachers have additional time and space in their schedule, they're also looking at ELA. The purpose of co-teaching is, trying to make sure that the students are getting targeted support in the moment. Instead of pulling them out of a class and teaching something different, it's being right in the class in that moment. Either the classroom teacher or the MTSS specialist can pull a small group aside. And it doesn't always have to be the students who are struggling. They can pull students who are at the other end of the spectrum and do enrichment activities. But having two adults in that classroom with a focus on math and making sure that they get timely interventions is key.
Sounds good and sounds innovative. And then my other question is about, do the numbers include in-school suspension? Like when we look at the dashboard, it does, okay.
Yes. Anytime you suspend a student from the learning environment, it counts.
So
Except
then-
for if the teacher has a class period suspension doesn't count, correct?
I don't think so, because it's not a full day.
I don't think so either, yeah.
So then in-school suspension is not being used as an alternative to suspension.
It just keeps the student in the school environment rather than at home. Home can be a lot more fun.
Okay. And then just, would you like to talk at all about how the population numbers affect, the population of these different demographics affects those numbers and how I'm not happy to see red and orange, but at the same time, we have to look at it in context, So to me, the attendance, the chronic absenteeism, I'm just saying, would you like to give any nuance to any of this, or do you want to just go by the numbers and let us be disappointed by these low numbers?
I don't know if I understand the question.
Okay. You have any questions?
Can I enter, because I actually have that same, so and again, I'm making this up here. We have 5,100 students in our school. Of the 5,100 students, the 105 that are suspended are African American, and that is the total population of African, I'm just making this up here, right? And that is the total population of African American students. So it seems like there's a high amount of African American students getting suspended, but really the population of African Americans in our district is very low. So is that possibly making the numbers look high for that student population when they're really, does that make sense what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So you're right, because if you have a small population of students, when you're looking at how many students were suspended, the rate is greater. Like, so, if you have 10 students, 2 of them are suspended, that's 20%. But if you have 100 students and 2 of them are suspended, that's 2%. So that does have a variation. So our smaller populations of students have a wider variance, and so that does have a factor in this, absolutely. And also keep in mind our English learners, once they are reclassified as fluent English speakers, or they're reclassified, they're no longer included. So that number always fluctuates. It's kind of not a fair indicator, actually, because once the students exit out of the English language development program, then we have new students coming in and newcomers. So we might have more newcomers coming in and students exiting out. So we might see a drop, but it's because it's comparing different population of students. So yeah, the numbers do matter, and there is some variation.
Is that what you were asking?
Exactly what I was asking. Yes, thank you. Also, I just, Trustee Rashba mentioned the differentiated assistance, and I did kind of have some questions about that as well. How directive is that, or is it just we do all the assessment ourselves and we come up with all the interventions, and they're just there as cheerleaders, or how does that work exactly? Or do they come and say, look, this is what we think you should do?
They work in partnership with us, so there's no directive. It's not like the past program improvement era where there were very strong requirements in place. This is an early piece of this road. The goal is for them, again, to work in partnership with us to help us identify what the root causes are and make decisions going forward.
Last question is, what do you think the most effective proactive thing that we're doing to prevent and not just react and repair, but what are we doing to prevent bad behavior and to encourage engagement and showing up to school? What do you think is most effective? What are you proud of?
When we build positive relationships with students, it is tremendously impactful. When we have relationships, when we get to know them for who they are, not just as a student on our roll sheet or a student at our school, it's hugely impactful. So I think there was a comment about being at schools, and sometimes the conflict is a simple misunderstanding. Well, if we don't take the time to engage in those questions and conversations, and we instead just respond and react, we've missed an opportunity to build relationships. Behavior is a way that students communicate with us. And middle school, that is their job. They are developmentally supposed to be pushing boundaries, trying out new things. So we need to expect that misbehavior will happen, be prepared how to proactively address it through community circles, through restorative circles, restorative conferences, etc. But continuing to engage and not isolate is key.
President Ali,
Thank you.
can I ask a question? Actually, 2 questions and maybe make a comment. First comment is thank you for, number one, this presentation, but also thank you for having the hard discussions and being uncomfortable, because I think a lot of times people shy away from conflict. They just are like, oh, I just sweep it under the rug, but the conflict doesn't go away. And even though this is uncomfortable for us to see, I think it is good that not only we're engaging in a difficult conversation, but that the public sees that this is difficult. I know that they're experiencing it as the parents or as the community, but we as a board are with them in that journey of difficulty. You had said earlier that the system was designed for us to see these results, and I don't disagree with that statement. And you did say that we need to be able to change the system, right? And
Be courageous to perhaps
Courageous-
explore what we can do. Yes.
100%. I echo Trustee Leah Iga Anoai's statements. I felt like I wasn't as eloquently verbal about that, but I agree. Like, I do feel as though I am sitting on this board and I'm making decisions, and honestly, every year I feel like I say the same thing. You, Ms. Scott, you probably, you're like, yep, you said that last year. And so I feel like a broken record, and I know it's not your fault, and I know it's not our educators' faults, or at least not collectively. And we're all trying to do something, small pivots to try to get to that place. And so, you know, thinking about advocacy trips, I'm like, okay, well, we can go advocate for programs and money, but what more can we be doing? Because money is okay, but to what you said earlier about relationships, regardless of if it's a child at our school or a person on the street, how you treat people is how they leave that, like, the impact that you've left with them based on the discussion you've had with them. And so when we talk about misunderstandings, and I'm a parent of two, and I don't like my children all the time. They're always pushing the boundaries on purpose, right? And I mentioned earlier, as an African-American woman and as someone that is raising African-American children, they have experienced microaggressions that maybe the person that did it did not even realize that they did that, right? And so that's the reason why I brought up professional development, because sometimes you don't know what you're doing to someone to make them feel that way, right? But then when I think of the school to prison pipeline, I think of, well, that kid was misunderstood and no one took the time to listen to them. And they were just, the educator was just following the protocol and said, oh, well, you know what? Based on this person needs to go into a suspension, not, hey, let me take you out. I know that I have a classroom full of students, but I need to take you out and have a conversation. So my question is are we overwhelmed with the amount of pushback that we're getting from students? Because in my eyes, what I don't want to happen is that we have so much going on. We're doing so many programs. We're trying to do all of these different things, and we're really just moving them through. We're just like, all right, next, because we have no choice. And if so, then what do we do to give the resources to our educators to pause and say, you know what, maybe it's me, or maybe we need to all calm down and come back versus responding immediately, because sometimes when you respond immediately, you're not going to get the response that you really want.
Absolutely, I agree. When social emotional learning came right into districts, a lot of us started with the adults in the system, because a lot of us grew up not being taught how to really access those pieces of our emotions, right? And how to manage them and what to do when we feel frustrated. So it is helping our adults as well at the same time as we're teaching students. It kind of goes together, because we were not raised that way. At least I wasn't. I'm probably one of the older ones in the room, but right, we weren't given space to really articulate how we're feeling, and then guidance on what to do with those feelings. And so I really feel that the addition of an SEL type curriculum and lessons that all of our counselors provide to our students is a starting place. But I know our administrators work through their staff meetings with the adults on their campus and look, at addressing emotional bandwidth as well.
Thank you. I know you have a hard job, and I appreciate everything that every one of you are doing. I just, again, I want to say that I don't want my comments to come across as judgment, because I do understand what you are going through, but I just wanted to make a point of, we are in this together, and if there is anything that we can do, let us know. Money is not everything. Sometimes someone just wants to be heard and listened to.
Yes. And education is difficult and it's very complex. And what we tend to do when we see these results is keep shifting, because we think, oh, this isn't working. We've done it for 2 years. So I really advocate for staying the course and giving things go deeper rather than shifting. And I do believe that the work that we're doing that was started prior to my arrival is going to start to see results. It's like the Titanic, right? We're trying to move something really, really large and complex, and the results are going to show, but they're probably going to be small, but they'll grow over time. So I appreciate the support and I just advocate to trust the process, even though it's difficult when we're looking at those colors. But I do believe in what we're doing.
All right, thank you. It's all right. We're still on track. Item 7G. Single Plan for Student Achievement 2023-2024. The administration recommends approval of the single plan for student achievement for the following JESD schools: Franklin D. Roosevelt, Marjorie H. Tobias, and Westlake, as developed by their school site council and site staff members. Representatives from each school will share highlights from their school plans.
Yes, we're trying something, we're piloting something this year where we want to have our school sites share publicly some highlights from their single plan before you approve them. So they're going to each just briefly go over some key items, and then at the end you can approve all three at the same time. And then since we have 14 schools, we're going to be approving a few each meeting for the next couple months. So I'll turn it over to Principal Higgins.
Okay, thank you for having me. So I love talking about my school. I love my school very much. So I'll share some strengths as well as some areas that we need to improve and the goals that we've been working on. And all of the data, the information is from last year, because when we're creating our plan, we base it on the information from last year. So I'm starting off with this. There's a graphic. You recognize that from the dashboard that Pam Scott just talked about. This is our English learner progress. We did very well with many of our English learners. And then over the top bullet on the other side, 74% of our English learners progressed one level on the annual state LPAC assessment, which we are very proud of. Moving on to the state SBAC, the state testing for 3rd through 8th graders, 8% of our students increased in ELA from the previous year, and 5% increased in math from the previous year. And then we also have our Panorama survey. There's 2 surveys for our 3rd through 8th graders, and they are the SEL survey and then the Student Supports and Environment survey. There's 18 categories total. In 13 of those categories, we improved from the previous year. And then one of those categories was we increased 4% on perseverance. The survey calls it grit, but it's basically perseverance through long-term goals. And then some areas that we are working on. You can see this graphic, the chronic absenteeism. We do have a lot of chronic absenteeism since we've come back from COVID. This has been a number that we've been trying to bring down. 25% of our students are from last year were chronically absent. Another area is our English learners. While they did do well on the previous slide that I talked about, in our district assessment called FastBridge in A reading, only 20% of them scored at or proficient or above. And then in the math district assessment, 32% of them scored at or above proficiency. And then regarding our Panorama survey, supportive relationships dropped 2% in our elementary students from the previous year and 1% in our middle school students for the previous year. So we have 4 goals. Number 1 is academics. So 39 students currently we are working with, tutoring during the day or after school in math and ELA. And then we are also implementing UDL across all of our classrooms. With our English learners, we have our ELD strategies that we've integrated into throughout the day in all of our classrooms. And this is with all students, not just English learner students, but they're strategies that are high quality that can help everybody. And last year, we focused on 4. This year, we're focusing on 2 more, and then very soon we'll be adding 2 more on for the rest of the year. And then we also have our designated ELD instruction for our English learners. Oh, that's supposed to be number 3. It says 2-2. Sorry, that was a typo. So the third goal, positive school climate, we have updated our PBIS program since when we created it before COVID. That's included things like restorative justice practices. We have awards assemblies where we honor students for their academics, for their attendance, and for like various skills such as perseverance that we kind of rotate throughout the months. And then last year we opened up our sensory room. Actually, it had been piloted prior, but last year it opened up for all of our classes. And we opened up our labyrinth as well, which is this outside courtyard space where students, it's just kind of a calming space where students can walk around. And then our family engagement, it's been, this year especially, but yet last year, we brought back our STEM night for the first time since before COVID. I've continued with the principal newsletters and coffees on a regular basis. And last year we had 6 PTA events, which was the most since COVID. This year we're about 1 a month. So that is FDR. I hope you have learned a little bit more about us. And if you have any questions, or are we taking questions? I don't know.
We were going to have all 3 share, and then if you have questions at the end. So thank you.
Okay, sure.
So we'll transition to MH Tobias.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent McCulloch, Assistant Superintendents, and our JESD community. The Tobias SIPSA is formulated with the input of our community stakeholders to meet the needs of our students. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to share our school's highlights, areas of growth, and some priority goals and actions with you this evening. I'm happy to report that our latest CASP scores show that 73.5% of our students who took the CASP have met or exceeded standards in English language arts, and 72% of our students have met or exceeded standards in math. A big highlight for us is our grade 4 students. 88.9% of our 4th grade students have met or exceeded standards in both ELA and math. A second highlight is our multilingual learners. Students identified as English learners took the annual summative LPAC assessment, and 60% of our students progressed at least 1 level. And third, I would like to highlight another academic performance in closing our opportunity gaps. 58.9% of our 5th grade students met or exceeded standards in ELA, and 63% of our students met or exceeded standards in math. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the dedicated and hardworking staff in their respective roles, ensuring that our students are engaged in the classroom and learning more. I also want to recognize our parent community for volunteering their time, staying engaged with the school, and adding to the learning community at Tobias. And because our our fourth grade students made a significant achievement this year, the leadership team is looking forward to having productive conversations around what took place with this group of students so that we can replicate some of the best practices for our other grades. Some areas of growth. 21% of our English learners went down one level in their summative LPAC assessment. And here you can see that the scores are broken down by grade and the overall LPAC level in their summative assessment. Almost 10% of our students are chronically absent. So the school site council and leadership team is looking forward to having discussions around ways to identify barriers, reach out to our individual students and their families, and find out, why they're missing school and begin to engage with our families to prevent absences from adding up and falling behind academically. Here are some priority goals and action plans based on our data. Our first priority is improving student achievement. At Tobias, we have extended learning opportunities through our partnership with the Daly City Peninsula Partnership. We offer after-school tutoring where students are referred by their teachers. Students take a pre-assessment and then a post-assessment so that we can monitor their progress throughout their year. And depending on the results, students may exit the program and new student referrals are rotated in so that we can maximize the extended learning time after school. In addition to tutoring, our teachers refer students to homework club, where we have instructors from Daly City Peninsula Partnership to provide additional support in a small group setting to those who really need the additional help after school. And our teaching staff is focusing on English learner strategies in the classroom to support our multilingual learners. And our teachers have opportunities this year to observe their colleagues and provide feedback to their instructional moves as part of our school-wide implementation of Teachers Observing Teachers program. Our teachers then share out their English learner observations at staff meetings, and this allows us to celebrate the successes that are happening in the classroom. And our goal is to have our teachers refine and improve on their teaching practices. And we know that teachers have the most impact on student learning in the classroom. At Tobias, we believe that a well-rounded education is critical. So we continue to offer enrichment opportunities after school, such as academic chess, strings violin, art, newcomer groups, and other programs through our partnership through Daly City Peninsula Partnership and Park and Rec. Our second priority is a positive school climate. In order for our students to achieve and learn more, the staff at Tobias recognize the importance of a positive school climate to support the students in their learning environment. So we have increased our yard supervision with not only qualified staff, but those who are parents of our community. And the caring adults help to keep our students safe, but as we talked about, to help students resolve their conflict, to practice their problem-solving skills so that the situations don't get out of hand and that the students have the skills and the tools to better communicate with one another. Our action items also include school-wide assemblies that address the identified areas in our student panorama survey. So Tobias will be focusing on grit and a growth mindset, in addition to the general content areas around our social-emotional learning. And as we have talks with our parents of our English learners, we also recognize that our newcomer students need a little bit more support. So we have created a class that is geared towards students who are new to school, who speak a completely different language other than English, called Friday Friends Group. In this after-school class, students learn the basics of what to do. And it may seem basic to us, but for our students coming into a school, a new environment, learning how to ask for using the the restroom, going with a buddy. Those are all skills that will help them to make connections with their peers and learn some key phrases and hand signals to ease their transition to school. And then with the collaboration of our teachers, we have Spirit Days once every Friday, and then a special Spirit theme day once a month to encourage our positive behaviors during our school-wide PBIS implementation. So we're hoping that our Spirit Days once a week, as well as these special Spirit Days, will help encourage our students to come to school and participate in the school activities. This month, we have Fun Hair Day that's coming up. And the school team is going to be looking at student attendance to see which students need the individual support. So we can have students, we identify the students to see what barriers they might have to help them get to school every day and on time. And the individual support can include things like check-in and check-out with a trusted staff member, connecting our families to resources in our community, as well as student support through counseling. Oops. Okay. And then last but not least is a priority on parent engagement. So MHT recognizes that the parental involvement has not been the same since pre-pandemic, and our goal is to strengthen the school-to-home connection and provide the opportunities for our parents as well as our community members to be engaged and stay engaged with the school. So some of our action items include parent workshops so that we can bridge the learning from school to home. And it's important for our parents to have knowledge of what their child is learning at school so that they have some strategies to support their students at home with ideas and things that they can implement. And Tobias will hold literacy events such as the Scholastic Book Fair to promote and encourage reading. Students leave the book fair empowered to choose their own books. They can add to their personal library at home, and then the proceeds from the fair go directly to fund the school library so that students can have access to new books at school. And MHT will continue to partner with the PTO and invite families on campus for school events, create volunteer opportunities, to build the relationships, to build community, and to create a network of support and learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hong. So we'll invite Westlake. Ms. O'Neill.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Liz O'Neill, principal of Westlake. I could talk about Westlake all night, but I won't. I promise I won't. And I first want to thank you for voting for the 3% increase. So thank you very much. So I am controlling. Okay. All right. So stop talking about our strength areas. We showed a 19% total growth in our panorama survey in student social and emotional learning, with 88% of our students feeling they have supportive relationships. So we've been really working hard on that. We're very happy about that because we know if students don't feel good, then they can't learn if they don't feel safe. So that's something we've been really working on. Also, with FastBridge AMath, we've had an increase in 5% from fall to winter. So we're happy about that. And this is not exactly on the slide, but since this is a new process, I thought it was okay. And next year, if I have to do it differently, I will. But it's a glow, and we have increased student involvement to include student-led morning positive messages and flag salute, peacemakers, buddy students meet weekly with our special day class, students help with the planning and implementation of the Great Kindness Challenge. We're expanding the role of student ambassadors to partner with new students to actually help navigate the school, to take them to different locations on the school so that they know where the lunchroom is, where the restrooms are, where the office is. And our 5th grade students, one of the classes is involved with ethnic studies, which has been wonderful. And they're helping to create our and plan our multicultural week coming up in spring. So student growth areas, 24% of our student population is chronically absent, 55% in preschool, and 47% in TK. 14% of our 4th and 5th graders are designated as potential long-term English learners. That's 23 students. And 5th grade FastBridge show only 1% increase from fall to winter, where the rest of the school has showed a 5% increase. And priority goals. We want to increase our FastBridge language arts and math scores. And one of the things we're doing is we have monthly grade level MTSS meetings with the team, with myself, our ELD teacher, and our MTSS teacher. We meet with the teachers during their PE time one Wednesday a month, and that was their idea. So we focus on, in next week when we do this, we'll be focusing on our recent FastBridge math scores and looking at what we want to do whole group and then with small groups as well. We also have staff PD using really focusing on tier 1 instruction for our school. Another priority goal is to increase multilingual student summative LPAC scores at least 1 level. So one of the things we're doing is all classrooms are using integrated ELD strategies throughout the day. We're focusing on using, we noticed that I actually help do the LPAC summative test because we have a high number and we would never be through. We'd be doing it in July. So I help administer this. And one of the things we notice is it's very rigorous academic language. So we're really increasing that academic language for all of our classrooms because it helps all students. So that's one of the things we're focusing on. Our ELD teacher also does push-in support into our upper grades as well. And one of our other priority goals is chronic absenteeism. And we know for elementary school, and most of our student population is across John Daly Boulevard in the Westlake apartment. So we know that it's not up to our students for the most part, it's up to their families to be able to get them to school. So we're trying to bring the families on board as well. So we have family attendance meetings. Teachers, all staff follow up with kids when they come back. Welcome back, we're so happy to see you. We have celebrations for classrooms with low percentage of absenteeism for the previous month. I have weekly principal messages. We're working on a community schools grant. We have frequent spirit days, student engagement activities, and we have weekly drop-in days for parents to come and just talk with me about any topic. Both me and our school counselor, we meet every Friday in the morning, so they could talk about anything they want, just to, you know, sometimes you don't want to have a designated topic. They can come talk about anything or ask any question. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. I just want to thank our 3 principals. This is the first time we're doing this, and they were the ones that said we'll do it first time. So we appreciate what you did tonight. I just want to I just want to let the board know we're running a little long, and we still have 3 more presentations. So just keep that in mind as you think about your comments or questions. We do need approval of their single plans as well.
Any question, comment?
No, if there are no questions or comments, I can make a motion, but also say thank you. Appreciate hearing the updates. It gives us a well-rounded picture of what's happening in your schools, and it's aligned with the presentation that was before you from Ms. Scott. So thank you. I greatly appreciate it. So I don't mind making the motion. I saw a nod.
Yeah, we
that
have
there were
one
no
question.
comments or questions.
Just a quick comment. I love the format, and I think it's, having worked on a SIPS, I know what a detailed document that it is, and I really appreciate the distillation of the key points that you've made here. And thank the principals for coming to speak tonight. Really enjoyed the presentation.
I think Trustee Leah got my motion, so I'll second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Item 8J, over A and Company change order requests. Hold on a second. Number 4 for JESD Workforce Housing Project Construction. Okay, yeah, oh yeah. I got it. The administration recommends ratification and approval of change order number 4 with C over AA and Company for the JESD Workforce Housing Project construction for an amount of $286,176.97. The original contract was approved on October 14th, 2020. This will be funded by Measure U. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 8K. The Contracted Services Agreement, Converge 1. The administration recommends approval of a contract with Converge 1 to provide ISE 3X maintenance services to support products or supported systems at supported sites for 36 months. The contract shall not exceed $32,340 and will be funded from the technology budget. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Here we go. Item 8L, fiscal year 2022-23 annual financial audit report for year ended June 30th, 2023. Well,
I think we have a different person tonight, so I'm going to let
you saw that I
Mr.
stopped.
Claro.
So our auditor will be in attendance to summarize the results of the 2022-23 annual financial audit of the district. And the administration recommends acceptance and approval of the audited annual financial reports for fiscal year 2022 to 23, ended June 30th, 2023, as submitted by the auditing firm.
I'd like to welcome up Miss Angela Lee from Eide Bailey, one of the managing partners for our annual audit, is at a conference today, I think this week. So she will be here in his stead. Give you the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, board. My name is Angela Lee. I'm one of the audit manager from Eide Bailey. We are the external auditor for the district financial audit. Presented to you today are the financial statements for the fiscal year 2023. With the audit opinions, we are the independent auditor report on financial statements and internal controls as this relate to the government auditing standards. We have performed audit procedures and provide an opinions on the district 2023 financial statements, a report on the compliance in accordance with government auditing standards, and a report on compliance for each major federal program we have been audited for 23, and also on internal controls over compliance required by uniform guidance, and an opinion on state compliance. Internal controls and financial statement audits, as we conduct them, come with separate responsibilities. It is the management responsibility to provide complete and accurate data to be included in the annual financial reports. They are also responsible to maintain, design, and implement effective internal controls over financial reporting. We had perform internal controls walkthrough for payable, receivable, payroll cycle. We select samples and we did not note any deficiency in internal control testing that we have been gone through for our interim and year-end cycle for 23. We as an auditor, we have the responsibility of expressing opinions based on the audit evidence that we have gathered and the presentation of the financial statements, as well as with respect to compliance when reviewing related materials. Furthermore, auditor has a requirement to act ethnically and evaluate any impairment of independence and appropriately disclose if we note any of those independence impairments to appropriate person if that happen. Audit standards require the communication of specific matters. The following is a detailed listing of these required communications. In performance of our audit, we provide the district with an unmodified or clean opinion. That means no finding on the financial statement to be included with their presentation for the year 2023. We note no material misstatement in performance of our audit procedures. No significant deficiencies came to our attention in performance of our work. As well, we did not note any instances of non-compliance as it relates to financial statement presentation, federal and state compliance. We comply with all relevant ethnical requirements for our audit team. Most specifically, we have remained independent throughout the entire engagement. In your review of the financial statement, we believe that footnote 12 and 13 are the most sensitive disclosure which is related to the OPEB, other post-employment benefit, and net pension liabilities of the district. These disclosures are the most sensitive accounting estimate affecting the financial statement of the district and are based on the usage of actuary specialists. We evaluate the key factors and assumptions used by the actuary and determine that the estimates are reasonable in relation to the basic financial statement taken as a whole. Lastly, there's no significant difficulties we encounter in performance our audit procedures and in communication with the management team throughout the entire engagement. We did not note any disagreement with the management in performance of the audit. That's for our presentation. So I'm open to any question or any comment for the audit opinions.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. I'll start off with a comment by saying congratulations to Assistant Superintendent Laurel and staff for your due diligence and staying on top of this. I've been, sat here and heard reports of one or two minor things that needed to be corrected in the past. So to hear that there's nothing, with all the different funds and all the different ways that money is exchanged in our schools and whatnot, that says a lot. So good work. Any other comments or questions from board members?
I do. I have two. Sorry. So on page 86, it does say that there was a material weakness finding. It says that the current status was implemented. I guess I just, for Mr. Laurel, if you could explain that. And how do we ensure that this is not a finding that we have in the future?
I think you're referring to a prior finding that we had in the previous year.
Correct.
I think it might either be pertaining to the certificate of participation or trying to think what the other one was. So in the case of the certificate of participation was effectively a loan. That's an asset that's held by the district outside of the county treasury in a bank account, BNY Mellon. So initially we should have booked that on our books as being within the district. We hadn't done so because, my understanding of it at the time was the money was ours, but then we were to get it and recognize it once it came into the county treasury. We made adjustment entries based on the auditor's recommendation, working with SMCOE to correct that and make sure that our accounting was correct. I think the other finding that we did have was pertaining to, I believe, GASB 31. It's an accounting standard of which we book the fair market value of the money that's held at the county treasury. This was due in part by the financial crisis that happened in 2008, 2009. So effectively, during that time, there were districts within the county that held, the county treasury had invested money in, I believe it was Bear Stearns or Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. And so when those companies went bankrupt, the financial instruments that the county had bought to gain interest, right, or to as investments, that money went away, and effectively those school districts lost money, right, their fund balances, percentage of them. And so GASB 31 is a way for us to every year make an adjustment based on the county treasury's allocation factor. So I believe this year was around 97%. So we book,
Correct, yeah.
and so we book to lose on the books. We technically have 3% less of our fund balances. However, the county treasury, if they were to sell those financial instruments on that specific day, that's what it would be. The duration of those instruments are anywhere from, they're short term, I think around 3 years. So, and obviously there's more higher due diligence in terms of everything that happened with the subprime mortgage lending crisis. So, so yeah, we've made sure to, in prior years that figure was at 1%. So we've just made sure to work diligently and closely with our auditor to make sure that we're booking the correct amounts.
Perfect. So thank you. I trust you. I just want to make sure, because I know we were like, no findings, and there were some prior year findings, and I just wanted to understand if we implemented them, how to make sure that we, don't do that moving forward. And you've answered that well. So thank you. The second question I have, or not question, maybe note to point on page 63 from organization, governing board, the term expires seems incorrect. And I want to make sure that maybe we have that updated.
Certainly.
Also, there's no president listed.
Page 63.
Yeah, I'll review that.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, well, we need a motion to approve.
I motion to approve with changes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Item 8M, bond projects update. Mr. Bill Heath, Director of Maintenance and Operations and Construction Program, and Mr. Michael Laurel, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, will present an update on the Measure U and J bond projects.
Good evening. I'm going to try to be very concise and conscious of your guys' time. A lot of what we're about to go over today, we've gone over at this current meeting last year. So we're just going to give you more of an update on Measure U, workforce housing, and Measure J, and we're going to jump right into it. So to give you guys some more recent history of our bond programs here, we had Measure I in 2012, Measure U in 2018, and Measure J in 2022. We concluded Measure I in fiscal year, I believe 2021 was the last of the expenditures in that bond program. We're rounding out Measure U, and with that, the last project to be completed is the workforce housing project that Mr. Heath is working diligently with our contractors and construction managers and architects and the city, and making sure that project gets done. And lastly is our Measure J. Of most recent, you guys had passed the Series B funding in October. And so let's go and jump right into the projects. So this is just a recap for the public. If they didn't watch weren't in attendance for the presentation we gave last year, here's a quick update on some of the Measure I projects that were completed. I'm just going to kind of skip through these because we had covered them in a prior presentation. Here's another quick update. If you're watching, you could see online as well some of the different projects that we've completed with Measure I. And so, yeah, out of Measure U, we've completed student drop-offs at MP Brown, Garden Village. There's fencing and safety improvements at MH Tobias, Woodrow Wilson. At Fernando Rivera, we've replaced HVAC units. And the biggest project out of Measure U that we're still on the cusp of finishing is the workforce housing project. So we're going to jump into a few pictures of the workforce housing project. And Mr. Heath.
So currently, we're nearing completion of the workforce housing project, but these photographs will show you the progress. We started early last year. So we did a lot of work and a lot of inclement weather, but you'll see in these last photographs that we're very close to nearing completion. The site should be open and available for renters to look at within the next month or two. So in working on this project, we've diligently spent time with, looking at at what the district spent and what the assets that we're going to end up with, and the productivity and how it's going to relate to us being able to keep and retain staff members for the district. Some more of the Measure J projects that we've currently worked on: Daniel Webster, the playground and resurfacing and fencing, and you'll see a lot of that progress if you've been out and about. We're working toward access control and providing a safer environment at Daniel Webster School. That includes a staff parking lot to separate staff from students coming on campus in the morning and the afternoon. Garden Village playground resurfacing, FDR new play structure, Fernando Rivera playground resurfacing, fencing and access control, and a student drop-off area. That also includes a staff parking lot that separates the staff members from students coming on campus. We're currently working on the concept plans for JF Kennedy fencing and access control, and we have completed the play structures at that site. MH Tobias got new play structures and fencing and access control. Susan B. Anthony got new play structures this last summer. And Thomas Edison got is going to get playground resurfacing, fencing, and access control, and this is being done in conjunction with the Fernando Rivera project. So you'll see that going on both sites as they share the same student drop-off area. Westlake, we're working on the concept design for the playground resurfacing and fencing and access control, and a student drop-off area for that site.
Which is interesting. Ms. O'Neill also brought up, the engagement to parents, and if you guys have ever been to that school site, there's not adequate and safe place for students to, if they are being dropped off. So yeah, just trying to address those concerns that, if parents are bringing their students to school, that it's, in a safe manner, and that we're separating and keeping, student safety as a priority, right?
So at Daniel Webster, in the access and control and the drop-off area, we've removed part of the unused playground area, the grass area, and put in a parking lot, and we also resurfaced all of their blacktop, and did all of we also at the same time worked on their quads, all of the inner areas, to provide them a better area. So Daniel Webster is these are some of the progress photographs. They're also going to have an outside learning area. So we have completed the staff parking lot now, and that allows staff to park separately from the student drop-off. The student drop-off is the second phase of it that's currently being under construction. In the quads, as I spoke about previously, what we had was we just had grass, and in the wintertime it was unusable. It just became mud, and so we didn't have an area for students to go outside and have outdoor learning activities and things like that. So what we did is we went in and we put in hardscape in there. We planted planting areas, benches, and then we also had some areas that we used for student access to, for
ADA compliance.
yeah, ADA compliance for the students to do gardening and things like that. So in order to be compliant with we had to meet certain regulations. So we put in, I think it's the next shot there. So we put in a series of planting areas like this so that students can access around it. And also, there's irrigation, there's everything available for them to be able to do that. Thomas Edison, we mirrored the same type of project at Thomas Edison, as those two schools are very, very similar in layout. So we took the outside areas, we put in planter boxes, we put in outdoor learning areas where the students can sit outside when we have those good weather days. There are benches, there are tables, there's access outside to Wi-Fi, there's access to power, everything, so classes can move out into those outer areas. And then they have benches around the planting areas where students can sit, and also the same type of outdoor planting area for students to utilize that for their curriculum. Thomas Edison we have, those schools are identical, so we have the same progress outside of Thomas Edison. We're looking at them both being almost equal, almost identical as far as what's provided. Thomas Edison does have a little bit of access requirements as far as ADA accessibility because of the slope for the playground, so we had to put in a couple of ramps and things like that. But from an inside standpoint, they'll be the same. Thomas Edison also is going to share an outdoor part or a staff parking lot. So that'll be utilized at the same time with Fernando Rivera. So those two sites are going to be changed dramatically in that, and allow the staff parking to be next to the gym, and then all the student drop off. The staff parking can also be underneath the canopy up here, back here where the solar panels are on the Thomas Edison side. So we at the same time that we did the Thomas Edison and Fernando, we also did access control and site safety. You'll see out there right now where they're putting in fencing, access control, emergency egress gates, and it also allows the school to be able to secure those campuses if necessary, but also keep them open to the public as we deem. And it allows us to protect our assets from during the day, keep kids on campus for PE. We put in a track utilizing some other funding, but a track for Fernando, and that'll allow us to keep students on campus and not have PE take place along the sidewalks like it has for a couple of years. So these are more progress sites from both the Fernando and Thomas Edison access and site security. You'll see that going on right now. We're working at the same time as the high school district is on their construction, which have made things a little bit difficult here on Lincoln Boulevard, but our families are working very well with us on student drop-offs, and we're progressing a lot quicker than what we thought we were going to, and we feel that we should be out of the bind here on Lincoln in the next several weeks. So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So just to recap, here's some of our most recent commitments and expenditures. We have $12.5 million remaining in Measure J. We're leaving for Series C. I'm proud of the progress we've made. I think from a curb appeal standpoint, we're making some progress. And when I first came here, the fences around were rusted out and there's holes, and just making sure that it's a safe and secure campus for our students, but also making site improvements to give them the quads for outdoor learning. This field is a largely unused space, so being able to not only give our students the opportunity to run on a track and not on the sidewalk with cars going by and the fire truck ripping through the street going into an emergency, just giving them these spaces to where they could we could really, provide a conductive environment for their learning. And, I think that our students, they recognize, when things like that change in their environment. And I think it just shows that we care about their learning, and, we're trying to make strides to improving the environment of which they're learning. I'm just thankful that, the board as well as the voters have approved these measures. I know that, the laundry list is massive in terms of the things that we could do. And so we're still trying to work through how we're going to spend the rest of the remaining funds. But I'm glad of the progress and proud of the progress that we've made. And it wouldn't be without your guys' help, and as well as the help of the community. Any questions?
Well, thank you so much for the update on what's been going on with those funds. Like you said, that were approved by the voters. Yeah, so thank you. Item 9B, job description for Program Director of Expanded Learning and Staff Resource. The administration recommends that the board approves the job description, qualifications, and salary for the Program Director of Expanded Learning and Staff Resource position. The Program Director of Expanded Learning and Staff Resource will be responsible for developing JESD's plan for the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, or ELOP, ensuring grant-funded opportunities are cohesive and in alignment with the district and county's vision, facilitating the Educational Housing Corporation and launch of the JESD Workforce Housing Project, and supporting the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources with teacher pipeline development, recruitment, and new certificated staff support as stated on the attached job description. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved.
If I could just make a quick little comment, I just want to make sure it's clear to the public that this is actually not a new position. It is just formalizing a position that already existed, as it was a principal on special assignment, which you'll see in the next agenda item. So we're just formalizing the title. So it's not a new administrative position.
Thanks for the clarification. And item 9C, administrative appointment 2023 to 2024. The administration recommends approval of the following administrative appointment. Jennifer LaRock, Program Director of Expanded Learning and Staff Resource 1 MWMA, Step 17, plus $1,100 for MA degree, effective January 18th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Would you like to come up and say anything? Okay.
We can afford time for this.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for the appointment. I've been incredibly fortunate to work under extremely supportive leadership in my time at Jefferson. I remember sitting down with Mr. Vidales after I had my third baby and voicing to him the struggle I was having balancing being a mother of 3 kids under 5 and running a K-6 school district. I was also stubborn, and I didn't want to let either of the jobs down, but Mr. Vidales was very willing to get very creative with me and with my position. And he taught me how I could also support the district in a different way. And I will forever be grateful for him thinking outside the box and supporting my career. And Ms. McCulloch has shown the same level of support by recommending this position as a permanent position, and I'm very grateful. I'll be brief, I promise. The last couple of years, I've worked a little bit more closely with Mr. Marquez Valenti, and I found myself assisting with some teacher recruitment. And as I speak to potential candidates at job fairs or summer programs or at line at Starbucks, I find myself repeating a really unique quality about Jefferson. And I found that Jefferson invests not only in their students, but in their staff. So you can enter Jefferson as a teacher and you can work as a teacher for 40 years and Jefferson will support you. If you wanted to grow into a leadership role at Jefferson, Jefferson will support that too. I make it a point to share with new recruits that they can have a career path here at Jefferson. And in fact, of our 19 administrators right now, 13 of them were teachers first. I love that I'm a part of that statistic, as I started at Jefferson as an administrator 18 years ago. And now I have the support of the district for a district level position. So thank you very much for supporting me.
I'm glad you took that opportunity. Okay. We're catching up. Item 11A, Board Policies, Administrative Regulations, September 2023, CSBA Board Policy Update, second reading. The board will review and revise board policies, administrative regulations, and board bylaws from September 2023 CSBA board policy updates as stated in a second reading. Do we have any comments or do we have a motion?
No comments. So I was going to make a motion unless you were.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item 11B, October 2023, CSBA Special Board Policy Updates, second reading. The board will review and revise board policies, administrative regulations, board bylaws from October 2023, CSBA Special Board Policy Updates as stated in a second reading. Are there any issues, questions, comments, or do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item 12, Board Professional Development, Board Study Session, CSBA 2023 Annual Education Conference. Board member Aaron Rashba will highlight some of his learnings as well as give a report about his attendance at the California School Boards Association 2023 Annual Education Conference in San Francisco from November 30th to December 2nd. And in the interest of time, I will be presenting at a later date.
Well, seeing as though we're behind schedule, I'll cut back my remarks to the 45 minutes. No, I'll be very brief in saying that I thoroughly enjoyed attending the CSBA conference in San Francisco over 2 days in November. Grateful for the opportunity to go. And just wanted to highlight three things that I took out of it. First of all, the keynotes were incredible. And last time my colleagues spoke about the keynotes from Dr. Sean Ginwright and Sal Khan, which were incredible. I wanted to mention the opening keynote, which I thought was really good. And that's Dr. Vernon Billy, the head of CSBA. And he was just talking about how important school boards are and just how broadly supported that public education is in California and across the country. And this really spoke to me given the incredible divisiveness that we have seen in school boards across the state, the country, and in our society overall. And school boards is really one thing that public schools is one of the few things that we can really come together around, in that he presented data just showing that the vast majority of people of all political persuasions support their local public schools, and that we have so much more in common than what divides us. So I really think that this is something that we can focus on being a uniter here in Daly City, and I see our goal here as a board and a district as fostering excellence in our public school. Learning number two, declining enrollment is a major issue across the entire state. And this came up in the keynotes in so many of the sessions that I attended. And I learned that 75% of districts in California are facing declining enrollment. what can we do about this? There are many things that are beyond our control. Macroeconomic forces largely are causing people to leave the state, particularly the most expensive part of the state. But I think the best thing that we can do is to make our schools excel as best we can to attract as many eligible students as possible. And the third learning, I attended a really good keynote session on community schools. And this was the investment that's being made in California is really remarkable. $4 billion in funding, one-time grant resources lasting until 2031. And that California is really the first major test state doing this. So the presenters talked about that relationships just being at the heart of community schools, and that being what sustains them, not only in schools, but the community, the school district, but the community at large. And I think that is what makes them so effective. So I took away some really helpful handouts from this session that I'm happy to share with the district if helpful, and really enjoyed my time at CSBA. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Trustee Rashba? Oh, great. Item 13, governance team member comments, reports, and board meeting reflection. And we'll start on the left.
Thank you for a great meeting.
Yeah, I thought we were very productive and we kept our conversations and on topic. Thank you.
No further comment. Great meeting.
Great meeting. I'm not going to make my announcements here. I'm actually going to forward them to the superintendent because there are some flyers for our students that they can participate in a climate change event, and there's $500 scholarships for them at 3 different levels, and it's free entry, and it'll be happening at CZI. But I'll forward you the flyer so it can be shared widely.
And I just want to acknowledge that we just had Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and that and just commend all of us here for working cooperatively toward an equitable future for our district. And with that, we will have a short recess and then convene to close session.
First, there's persons wishing to address the board
you're
on
right.
item 14.
Do we have any speaker cards? Okay, thank you. No persons wishing to address the board on closed session. And we are ending the meeting in honor, you already said it before, but we'll say it again, in honor of Robert Manuel Brizuela, husband of retired board member Marie Brizuela.
President Ali, before we close in his memory, I just want to convey my condolences publicly to former trustee Brizuela. And Mr. Brizuela has accompanied us many times to our CSBA conferences. And when we had trainings, he would accompany her sometimes. And we had the opportunity to spend time with him. So he was a wonderful man. He was always joyful. And I can imagine how much she misses him. So I just want to send a lot of love her way.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting
So
is not adjourned. We're going to
we'll
recess
take a
and then go to closed
yeah.
session. Yeah.
So 5 minutes, we'll convene at 9:26.